So here I am at the library to see if I can get any more books for Women in Translation Month. My card is super old, but hopefully it still works. Let the hunt begin. I did it. I got books. That's Fukuoka Tower in the background. I went right till the very end of closing time and I still needed more time to look. As you can tell, it's very dark now. And that's why the tower is all nicely lit up. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Anyway, I think I'll come back tomorrow and see if I can find any more, but I found 8. So that's quite a good number, although a lot of them are children's books, but yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to read these 8, but I want to, have another look and then, weigh up my options and make a final selection. So we'll do that tomorrow. Kind of interestingly, half of the books that I found were Scandinavian children's books. So for the sake of diversity, I decided I would return the ones that weren't super interesting for me the next day. And that left me with 2 Moomin's books, and I thought realistically I only need 1 Moomin book in the month. So I also decided to return one of those and keep the one which looked the most intriguing. On my way to the library again. Here's a nice little river that goes out to the sea. Got an ice pack around my neck today at the risk of not looking very fashionable because the outdoors is like a furnace. And here we are again, this strange satellite disc thing. That's the library. Take 2. See if I can find some, and if there's any books that I missed out last time. Especially genre books, that's what I'm hoping for, but we'll see. It's such a cool place, this library. I really wish I could show you inside, but you're not allowed to. And because I really like it, I kind of want to, it's earned my loyalty. I want to respect their rules. But yeah, it's got a real focus on the city and internationalism and stuff that I like. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite libraries I've ever been to. Well, I got 2 more books, both recipients of the Man Booker International Prize, funnily enough. But yeah, I had to really thoroughly scour those shelves. But there's not that many shelves, to be honest. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to be able to read all of these, but at least I have a wider pool to choose from now. So I will introduce those when I get back home. See you later. The street I'm on, by the way, is Sazae-san Street, which is apt because I'm reading Sazae-san as part of my reading month. Sazae-san history for you there. Never actually read that, but I gotta go. I'm late. So having reduced my pile of books down to 5, I was now able to bring it back up again to 7 and end up with 3 of the winners of the Man Booker International Prize, which is, I don't know, I guess somebody must have been collecting them or something. I decided that I would allow myself to start reading one of these books as a reward for finishing an earlier one that I'd stopped ages ago out of boredom, which was this. Within these diaries, actually, it's a diary called The Diary of Izumi Shikibu. It's also a Woman in Translation book, and yeah, it bored me to tears, but I've always wanted to finish it, so that's what I decided I would do. Well, I just finished seeing my sensei for my dance teacher, for some stuff about visas and sponsorship and all that, and it gave me a nice chance to come out to the countryside, which I haven't done in a while, and also to take a nice long train ride, which is my favorite thing in the world because it means I get to read books. I've got my lovely bunch of books that I've just got from the library, but I kind of feel I got to eat my vegetables first and finish the Nikibunka. What's it called? The Diary of Izumi Shikibu that I'm reading right now. So yeah, I started reading it on the train. I started from the beginning because I gave it up ages ago, and it's so good. I had such bad memories of it. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood, or I don't know why, but it's amazing now. So I'm going to read the whole thing on the train right now. Here's the book. I thought was going to be a struggle to get through, but in the end turns out to be really fun. And here's my train. Celebrating the end of Obon with some nice unagi, which is eel, and grapes. Thought I'd treat myself. Good evening, I've just arrived at Iwajuku. Iwajuku is the place where Ito Noe was born and where she lived for the beginning of her life. Ito Noe is the Japanese anarchist feminist who I'm about to start reading about, since her biography is one of the books I'm reading for Women in Translation Month. So I thought, what better way to start the book than enjoying a day at the beach, in the very place where the subject of the book grew up. Serendipitously, it was my friend's birthday, so I brought a little present, so I'm going to deliver that, and then I'm going to head off to the beach and begin reading. That's the train station. Palm trees and all. Present delivered. Friend quite pleased, I think. So now all I have to do is find my way to the ocean. I think I'm going in the right direction. Ha! That looks like the sea. Yatta! So I found the sea, which is pretty lovely, but the shore itself is kind of gross. So I'm gonna see if I can find a nicer spot where you can lay your towel and hopefully dry out in the sun. Oh no, that is tragic. That is just tragic. I will leave you here for now. Although I imagine the tide will get you again before too long. And anyway, it's gone. It's not a GoPro, it's a Gone Pro, I think. C'est la vie? Found a nice little spot. So for sunsets, just gotta get in the sea. Not a big fan of the cover. The cover art is like, I don't know. I don't think that's anything like what she looked like in real life. Like, I've seen a picture, but whatever. I'm so excited to finally start this book. And yeah, I'm not normally excited about biographies at all. This is the first time I've ever been excited about a biography. I learned about this person in history class and she sounds so cool. So I can't wait to learn more. Oh, that's her husband, who was even more famous during their lifetime. Kind of weird to begin a book about, a feminist hero and start it with a quote by her husband, but I'll give it time. Okay, this first sentence makes my trip here even more opposite than I thought it would be. When I thought of going to Hakata, it was merely out of a desire to stand upon the seashore at Iwajuku, noted for its beautiful pine grove at Ikinomatsubara. If you look at a map, you'll find that the town of Iwajuku, which sits upon Hakata Bay on the western outskirts of Fukuoka, is about 7 miles from the center of the city. Inside Hakata Bay is a smaller inlet bay called Imazu, and Iwajuku is exactly in the middle of that inlet's coastline. This book is kind of grotty. The weirdest bookmark ever. By standing on the beach at Iwajuku, where Noa Ito was born, by listening to the cries of the grebes, which she had written about in a poem, and by watching the blue waters of Hakata Bay in which she had swum, I thought I would attempt to get closer to the image of Noe that had so completely captivated me. As I stood on the shore of this coastline, so deficient in variety and so smooth it seemed almost too prosaic, what glittered to overflowing in my visual field was the blue expanse of water and sky, and I felt a yearning as if my heart had been naturally lured beyond that sea, spreading out like a fan unfolding. I could only nod my head in agreement, as I felt that if anyone stood on this beach every morning and evening, stared at this sleepy, tranquil line of coast, and gazed at the approach and return of the tracks of those waves of the sea, that person's heart, be it Noe's or not, would be filled with longing to set out on a journey to some distant world beyond. The wind from the sea was also gentle, but if I gave my mind to it, the sound of waves was continually reverberating into the wind as they quietly beat against the shore. Maybe too late to save this fella who just flew into the sea, but let's see, maybe when your wings dry out, if I put you somewhere nice. Because you were flapping around 2 seconds ago. So once we give these a good sunbathing, maybe you'll be fine. Put you up somewhere, not too much sand. And I'll put you on your front. There. Looks like his wing's broken, but actually it's just folded over. So maybe you'll be okay. Although, oh, an antenna's missing. Huh. Beautiful swallowtail butterfly. You can see it's got the markings of the swallow and even the shape here. Good luck to you. Hope you dry out and fly again. It was an unpretentious house in the style of a fisherman's dwelling often seen along the coast. Beyond was a veranda, a garden which had been tended with great care, and a blue expanse of sea above the wooden wall at the back of the garden. As I was sitting in this room, I could hear the ceaseless sound of waves. The sound I heard was much stronger than when I had stood on the beach, and I felt as if the dull thud of wave after wave was reverberating through my entire body. Stage fright.
Su lengüita.
Ah, ¿esto salió su lengüita?
Yeah, you're gonna see it in the video.
Qué lindo. Ya, camina un poco. Camina para la cámara.
Ah, there you go.
Qué lindo. Super lindo. Hi there, I just finished doing my video about book covers and judging those books by those covers and first sentences of the books, and that was fun. Now I'm gonna continue with the vlog and just tell you what I've been doing. On Monday I finished reading the diary of Izumi Shikibu, which was great. I loved it, and I'm so glad that I did what I hadn't been planning on doing, and start all the way from the beginning and read the whole thing from start to finish, because if I just read the ending, then I don't think I would have. It's something that really needs to be read in one sitting, and maybe that's why I didn't like it the first time I read it. I guess, I don't know, but I guess I read it in bits, and like some things you just gotta kind of like take all in one fell swoop, and I think that was that kind of book, because I really like that this time round. Or else maybe I'm just older and wiser, but not likely. Well, one of those is likely. The thing is that that was Monday, wasn't it? Yes, I wrote it down here. That was Monday. Another thing I did on Monday is I began listening to audio horror, because I wanted to get in horror things this week and I couldn't find any like women in translation horror books in the library like I'd been hoping to. So instead, well, actually this was kind of unplanned. What happened was earlier on in the month I had like I was really sick, not sick, just like what do you say, like taicho warui, like my body was not doing well because of the heat. I was just like in a bad state, let's say, uh, and I couldn't do anything. And I thought this would be a good time in this sort of haze of feverishness. I thought this would be a good time to listen to an audiobook because like I just want to hear a human voice right now because I'm like alone and feeling really unwell and just like melting in my apartment and I can't like do anything except for like kind of rest, you know, that kind of sick feeling where all you can do is rest. I turned out the light because it was making my face look weird or weirder. Anyway, I found The Wendigo by Algernon Blackwood, an audiobook of that. And of course, the things I found were things which are in the public domain. So, you know, like all very old things which don't have copyright anymore. But I'm fine with that. And it was a great experience. I didn't like the Wendigo so much, but the audiobook experience was really good. And I'm really glad I had that novella like kind of under my belt, and like I'm glad I'd read it or experienced it. So I decided later on when I met with no success in the library, I thought this is what I will do. I will read physical women in translation books and listen to scary audiobooks, and that way I will meet both of my goals this month. So on Monday, back to Monday again, time is just flipping around here. On Monday, I listened to The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, a short story, which I liked. I'm glad I listened to it. I didn't love it. I liked it. It's sort of like iconic, I think. They teach it in schools in America and stuff like that. So, and I never read anything by Shirley Jackson, and it made me want to like kind of experience more of her writing, I guess. And then I also listened to The Fall of the House of Usher, a short story by Edgar Allan Poe, which I'd always wanted to read. I love Edgar Allan Poe, and it's one of his big ones. And it was good. It was genuinely chilling. I cannot remember being scared by a story that much since I was quite a bit younger. So, like the ending was, well, maybe I'll talk about it later. Although I might not talk about the ending. The ending was, not obviously not going to spoil it. But anyway, everything leading up to the ending was amazing and actually scary. I was scared in my own house, but in a good way, not in a kind of like I'm sick and there's nobody here. I'm really worried that like about that kind of thing, or I'm lonely and like what if my neighbor who's crazy and screams and stuff starts like banging on the wall or something. None of that kind of fear, just good ghost story, gothic. It was just brilliantly written, and I loved it. So that happened on Monday. Tuesday, as you've seen, I went to Iwajuku and I read a book which has so far been largely set there, although it's a biography of somebody who comes from there, and that was great. I got to the beach quite a bit later than I planned to, but still, so it wasn't a full day. It was only like an hour or two of reading at the beach, but still it was a good experience, a great experience actually. Like how often do you get to do something like that? Oh, I forgot to say, also on Monday I started The Vegetarian. I only read the first paragraph of it, but it got me hooked. It went from me thinking, I have it right here. So like I had no real expectations for this. I just wanted to start it first because it's the shortest. Oh, hello. But the, what am I saying? Vegetarian, that completely threw me. The Vegetarian first sentence and first paragraph was amazing, and I was like, I can't wait to read this. And I continued reading it after Iwajuku Day on Wednesday, along with Beauty and Disarray. So I've got these two on the go. That's what I've been doing since then, since Wednesday and Thursday and Friday. Wednesday and Thursday are my work days, so I was pretty busy, but when I had a chance, then I've been reading these two books. And also on Wednesday I started listening to the audiobook of The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson, and if my feelings for The Lottery were kind of like subdued and like, oh, that's good, and I can see how it was like really reflects the time of 1950s post-war stuff and blah blah blah, and a kind of academic removed way, interested in it, then my feelings for her novel The Haunting of Hill House are totally different. I am so captivated. The words, the characters, everything comes together so wonderfully. The audio recording is like done by a professional actor. So I'm kind of thinking this one may not be in the public domain. Maybe it's kind of a cheeky little not supposed to be here online audiobook thing. But whatever, here I am listening to an amazing book and reading two other books that I'm really into as well. So I'm having a great time, basically. So far I've gotten, I think 3 chapters in to the Shirley Jackson, and I'm so into the characters, the descriptions, everything about it. I'll say more about it, I guess, as I get further in. But this opening part has been such a good haunted house thing. It reminds me of a Agatha Christie novel or something like that, because it has these four main characters: a doctor who's doing an experiment on the supernatural, and then two women, Eleanor and Theo, who he's like kind of scouted out to have like participants and like researchers or assistants basically for his project, and then a third person called Luke, who is a family member of the house, so he's there just to make sure, I guess, that they don't steal stuff or whatever, although he's meant to be kind of kleptomanic. So anyway, it's the four characters are all fun and just like exciting and really pleasant, and it's got such a great air of like companionship and being frivolous and having a good time, and like that kind of great antiquated 1950s language, and I do say, and it's just wonderful, and yet, like, of course it's exciting because it's a horror novel and they're in a scary house and they've been brought together, these four characters, by a strange like kind of idea, and things are presumably going to get much stranger and more foreboding as it goes. But for now, just this opening where it's all kind of just character building and stuff is great, and I love that. As for the other two, the vegetarian, like, I've read the first bit. Like, I've read, interestingly, at the beginning I read this thing which said that it was originally published as 3 novellas, or I think it said like novelettes or something, which is, I don't know, I guess a novella. I mean, you can't, I don't, as far as I'm concerned, there's nothing, as far as I know, there's nothing between a short story and a novella. So yeah, I guess a novella. Anyway, 3 novellas, and I read the first section. So it was published as 3 novellas and then published as a full book later. So I read the first novella section thing, which is just called The Vegetarian, and it was good. It was strange, not in a great way for me, to be honest. Like, there were bits of it which I thought, like, I don't know, the writing seems poor, and I think that might be just the translation, but the images are really captivating, and the way the story and the plot marry kind of certain images really works. Like, I'm going to talk about it more later, I guess, but basically at first I thought it was going to be too heavy-handed in like the way it was going, where there's the woman and she's like a victim who's a vegetarian, and her husband and her family are all monsters. But as it goes on, like, you realize, she's actually got a lot of her own problems as well. So it's not just like this woman suffering against the terrible patriarchal forces around her, which could be a great story as well, but it's more this sort of not ambiguity thing, but like, there's no hero here. It's just kind of sad, and that's good. I mean, like, it's surreal as well, like, and yet mundane. So I'm curious about it. But what I was trying to say originally was that, like, yeah, it reads like a novella, actually. It feels like it has a beginning, middle, and end. And if that was the full thing, if I'd already read the whole story, I think I'd be satisfied, to be honest. So I'm interested to see where things go in the next 2 parts. As for this one, it's gotten really dark, so I'm going to try and wrap this up quickly. So basically, for Beauty in Disarray, I've been really enjoying it. The way that it's gone is the biographer is talking about, she's come to Iwajuku and she's looking for the surviving family members of Itonoe, who's the main character. She starts by talking about Itonoe's murder, which is, one of the most dramatic parts of her story. She and her husband and her 6-year-old nephew were all murdered by military police in the aftermath of the Kanto earthquake. Which is horrible, and it's written about really well. Like, I already knew this story, but like, she doesn't, she tells it like from different viewpoints, because as she's interviewing the family members, and it's obviously the most dramatic way into the story. Well, it's one of the dramatic ways in. She had an amazing life, this Itonoe person. She had just an amazing life. And by going through the surviving family members and finding out the links between them here in Fukuoka, it's really like interesting for me personally, because I love making family trees. In my bookmark is the library due dates, but on the back of it, I don't know if you can see. Can you see? Yeah, I've been making a family tree as it goes. So Itonoe is there in the middle, and then that's her first husband and her second husband. Her second husband is a really famous anarchist. Although, you know, all three of these people were super famous at the time. But yeah, it's just been actually a blast, like reading it and then having to make my own. I said in an earlier video, the last one I posted, I think, that I really like books that have family trees at the beginning, which is true. But I think even more than that, I like books which make you make your own family trees in order to appreciate them, because it's just really fun for me personally. So like, yeah, it goes back to her grandparents and her uncle, and the characters who are in the story so far are her daughters Mako and who else? Oh, her sister. I'm kind of reading it backwards. Anyway, a bunch of these characters are still alive. Even of the old generation. And yeah, these are really like old people, and so I was like, why are they all dead? So I had to check when the book was originally written, and it was written in the 70s, I think. I forget now. But anyway, yeah, so it makes sense. And probably a lot of the people I'm reading about are dead now, or if they're not dead, then, you know, they're past 100. So good for them. Anyway, it's a really good way into her life, I think. The writing style, whatever. It's just like the kind of investigative family connection thing, and like finding out about this person who was like really extraordinary through this big web of blood relations. The thing that I'm not so keen on, and I guess that can't be helped, and that I'm worried will become worse as it goes on, is that the writer herself basically says that she's not interested in Itonoe as a genius or anything like that. Like, she thinks her literature is really poor, and she, you know, shows an example of one of her poems, but like that she wrote when she was 17. So it is a terrible poem, but like that seems really harsh, you know, to be like putting someone's teenage poetry on display and saying like, haha, how terrible they are. But she says the reason is because she had such an incredible life, and she met so many incredible people, and like she was at the crux of so many important relationships during this time in Japanese history. And for me, that's, you know, a valid reason and stuff, but I actually do think that she was an amazing person. So like, if the narrator... Okay, my phone is seriously out of storage, so I'm going to wrap this up. What was I saying? Yeah, if the narrator thinks that isn't so great, then that kind of doesn't bode well. If I think, you know, that the subject of the thing is more interesting than the person who's writing about it does. But I mean, so far it's good, so we'll just have to see how that continues. That's all. My phone is out of storage, and I keep having to stop it and delete something to keep making this video. So I'm going to finish there. See you in the next installment. Bye! On Monday, I went to another beach, which is my favorite beach in all of Fukuoka. It's called Keia, and it's way out on the other side of the Ito Peninsula. I should have filmed more, really, but oh well, I wasn't really thinking about it. And I'm going to use this beach as a transition point, because it turns out I filmed way too much footage for just one video. So what I'll do is I'll make this a part 1, and I'll post a part 2 pretty soon. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next part.